Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Laguna Beach. Our service is entitled Sacred Activism for Immigrants and Detained People. Love is the spirit of this church. Our faith calls us to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need. The sacred activism you will learn about today from our guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Terry LePage, represents all three of these aspirations. We welcome her to our congregation and look forward to hearing of her experiences providing support to unfairly treated detainees and immigrants. My name is Noreen Kukkonen, and I will be your worship associate today. Our music director, Carol Cole, is at the keyboard to enhance our spiritual experience with her beautiful melodies. Our audio and Zoom needs are in the skillful hands of Pam Floodman and Don West Jr., with assistance from Dara Skorecki today. Candy Strock and Paul Bogdan have opened our doors this morning, lit the candles, and put the coffee pot on. Best of all, they put the treats out. We owe them a big thank you. And that goes for everybody else who believes in our fellowship and works to preserve it. We really are the little church that could. This congregation is open to all who are in accordance with our principles, mission, and vision. We unconditionally welcome any and all of you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to become the best that we can be. We're part of UUFLB because we share the same values, and we remind and encourage each other to lead meaningful and purposeful lives. There are 7 principles that Unitarian Universalist congregations affirm and promote. These can be found on our UUFLB website and also on the banner at the front of our building. Our service this morning reflects principles numbers 1 and 2, our belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every person, and the goal of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. This is the right of all, including those who are imprisoned. My first experience with incarceration was in 1974. I was locked up in a pitch dark cell in solitary. There was the jarring dissonance of the clanking steel gates, angry voices, and then an eerie silence, utter silence. And I was all alone with my fears. But I was at Alcatraz on a US National Park Service tour, and I knew my door was going to swing open quite soon. Think of what it must be like when the imprisonment is for real. For the privileged and protected, there's a good chance that freedom will soon come. But for others, like the racially profiled prisoner or the detained immigrant, there is often very little reason to hope. There's a world of hurt behind prison bars, and that includes those in our own county, Orange County. Our guest today, Reverend Dr. Terry LePage, will tell us about how she has been supporting incarcerated people and their families in Orange County. It's an inspiring story of community action and self-empowerment. We look forward to hearing Reverend Terry speak this morning. Welcome all. I have a frog. Our chalice lighting is set for this time. As Unitarians, we have one symbol in our church, the chalice. This morning, Paul Bogdan will be lighting our candle. We light its candle as a sign of our search for truth and meaning. If you have a candle at home, please light yours now. Thank you, Paul. Words for the chalice lighting come from UU member Lindsay Bates. To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives. Please join me in reading the centering thought for our service this morning. It's a prayer from the Jewish tradition. Grant us the ability to find joy and strength, not in the strident call to arms, but in stretching out our arms to grasp our fellow creatures in the striving for justice and truth. And now we'll have our opening hymn. It's number 124 in our hymnal. There's lyrics printed if you would like to use those. Our world is one world.
Hello. There it is. Please join me in singing Our World is One World. Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Thank you, Carol. Beautiful, beautiful words to think about. Now it's time to unmute yourself so that we can join our voices in the unison affirmation of our goals as Unitarian Universalists. May we be reminded
here
of our highest
aspirations
and inspired
to bring our gifts of love
and service
to the altar.
of humanity.
May we know
Once again,
that
we are not isolated beings,
but
connected in mystery and miracle
to the
the
universe,
universe,
to this
community,
to each other.
and
to each other.
We are a circle of care where sharing of our joys and sorrows is important. It helps us stay in touch with each other and understand what other people go through. The Reverend Lisa Bovey Kemper writes, in this circle of care, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates that on any given day, we each come to the table with hearts in different places. If you wish to share what's in your heart today, we'll start with our friends on Zoom. This is also a time for those of you in the building to light a candle for a silent joy or sorrow. Empowered by the many gifts of those who join in covenant with us, the gifts of service, trust, collaboration, patience, humor, compassion, curiosity, time, and yes, financial contribution. We commit together to ensure that the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for our world than any that we can contribute on our own. So please be generous as you can be and contribute as Candy comes forward. The offering is to sustain and grow the mission of this congregation and all its good work in bringing justice and balance to our world. If you are joining us online, the remote ways to contribute are on your screen and in the email you received that announces service. In gratitude for all the gifts of abundance we bring to one another, let us rise and sing our song of gratitude. This is a song that brings us together as we offer our gifts together. So sit or stand, it's up to you, but please sing along.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
That's what I call belting it out. Our prayer for meditation this morning is from a Buddhist monk who left us fairly recently. It's a prayer from Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's number 505 in the gray hymnal, if you choose to look. It's a prayer for compassion, both for ourselves and for others. Please allow yourself to relax as you listen, and maybe close your eyes so that you can better focus on the message of this prayer, which comes to us from the Buddhist faith. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the sufferings that are going on around us. Let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen. I'm privileged to introduce our guest speaker this morning, Reverend Dr. Terry LePage. Reverend Terry has been in supporting incarcerated people and their families, mostly immigrants, as a sacred witness to their worth and dignity. They are teaching her humility, presence, perseverance, and creativity. Through the committed and skilled work of young people in participatory defense, as well as formerly incarcerated people and coalitions of activists, she is a witness to the power of community action and self-empowerment. Reverend Terry LePage loves to inspire people through preaching. She's an ordained minister of the United Church of Christ who has served as a transitional minister in Southern California after working as a research chemist. She currently works for the Deep Adaptation Forum and is a member of Irvine United Congregational Church. She became active with CLUE, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, in 2018. Reverend Terry lives in Irvine with her husband, Scott Rysnovsky. She enjoys native plant gardening and restoration, yoga, and craft beer. We welcome her and the stories of the people she supports, how her faith guides her, and the opportunity to gain a different perspective on the goals of activism. Welcome to Reverend Terry.
Thank you for helping me get my thoughts in order on this topic and for inviting me to share them with you. I also have a jail experience. It was Theo Lacey County Jail up in Anaheim, and it was the most oppressive place I have ever been in my life. When I entered, excuse me, I wasn't allowed to bring anything with me. The corridors were, oh, I'm gonna go and get some water. Usually have a cough drop in my pocket too. Oh, well. So the corridors were poorly lit. They were a sickly color. Staff spoke to me as if my very presence offended them. And as I waited and waited, every detail around me spoke to me and said, "We want to make you as miserable as possible." What was I in for? I was not actually being detained either. I was just a visitor. A member of my church had violated his probation, and it made a world of difference to him that I endured a couple of hours of waiting in that horrid place to remind him that he was loved, that he had a church community to support him. In Theo Lacey Jail, every waking hour, incarcerated people are told in large ways and small, "You are human garbage. We don't care about you at all. We are glad you suffer. and this is no accident. The Orange County Sheriff, the District Attorney, and many of their staff deliberately enact policies and practices that harm detainees, most of whom, mind you, are not convicted of anything, but are just awaiting trial or perhaps drying out after being picked up on the street. Some of them are detained for trivial things that I would never be detained for because I'm white. People have won lawsuits over this, although, as you can imagine, most of the abuse goes unnoticed, unreported. The heart of my faith is your first principle. And I say it this way: every person is a child of God, sacred in their core, no matter how they behave or how they appear on the surface. I don't try to prove things from scripture, but I do have a few favorites. In the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "When I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. And when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink." And the crowd said, "We don't remember doing that for you." And Jesus told them, "When you did it for people labeled worthless by your society, then you did it for me." You have figured out how to truly live. And there's more. "When I was a stranger, you welcomed me." Hello, immigration rights. "And when I was naked, you gave me clothes to wear." Economic justice. "When I was sick, you took care of me." Could that be universal health care, I hear? And finally, the one that I had done my best to neglect for many years: "When I was in jail, you visited me." So I don't know how many of you have friends in jail. But when I was in jail, you visited me. Matter of fact, like, for followers of Jesus, being in jail was a common thing. Well, their leader was executed in a sham religious trial, after a sham religious trial, executed by Romans. The Apostle Paul rabble-roused his way across Roman Asia, visiting many famous cities and being jailed in most of them. And John Dominic Crossan explains that the machine of the Roman Empire was busy in Jesus' time and place, busy kicking peasants off their land and creating large plantations for Roman gentry to invest their wealth. The Jewish people were crying out for justice against their Roman oppressors, and Jesus was Jewish. So apparently, visiting prisoners was a thing if you're a follower of Jesus at that time, and maybe at our time as well. I, on the other hand, was raised in a country with liberty and justice for all, right? I knew that that was not the whole picture, but I didn't understand how bad the criminal legal system was, how it had been a tool for keeping people in poor and racialized communities scared into submission and their families broken and broke. I was picked up as a young teen for shoplifting. I got off with a talking to. There were no police hovering around my neighborhood to catch me when me and my friends were using pot. A racialized community would probably not be so lucky. And remember that though pot is legal now, many of the people still in jail are on drug charges with long sentences. I got educated about the criminal legal system at participatory defense meetings. About 20 people would gather in a cozy conference room at Resilience OC in Santa Ana and work our way through people's legal and immigration cases with a lively mixture of Spanish and English. Some of us were volunteers willing to drive, fundraise, accompany people to court hearings, in my case, with a clergy collar on. I only wear this clergy collar when I'm doing justice work. It may be the first time I've worn it to preach. The rest of the group were people defending themselves or their loved ones from jail or from deportation. Arturo's mom, Anna, usually brought the food, and she is a good cook. There were strollers, children milling about, and there was also heartbreak, frequently tears. Now we do it all over Zoom, of course, everything except Anna's food. I miss Anna's food. I'll be changing names to protect privacy, but my stories are factual. Participatory Defense was created in Chicago by families of incarcerated people to support each other in navigating the criminal legal system. In addition to mutual support, they help share winning strategies with people who can't afford legal representation. Sometimes simple stuff like teaching people what they need to do at a bond hearing to be successful, how to increase their likelihood for parole, packing the court or the immigration hearing to remind people that the accused is a person with family and friends. My Spanish is pitiful. I don't have a head for legal matters, and I don't have the practical resources that a lot of these people need. What I can offer is presence. Someone cares. You matter. God has not forgotten you, says this clergy collar. And you have one middle-aged white lady on your side, which turns out to make a difference in law enforcement settings. Arturo was the first person I got to serve. His mom brought him to Costa Mesa when he was 3 years old. He grew up attending Newport Mesa schools the whole time. He has no path to citizenship. He doesn't remember Mexico. Costa Mesa police have been harassing Arturo since he was in middle school. At that time, they told him that they would get him sooner or later, and they did. I don't know the details, but he completed his sentence at the age of 21. Given long mandatory sentences and gang enhancements for people who live in the wrong neighborhood, whatever he did wasn't very serious. Sheriff Don Barnes made sure that on Arturo's release from county jail, ICE officers, Immigration Control and Enforcement, were waiting at the door of the jail to take him directly to the Adelanto Detention Center in the high desert near Barstow. Arturo spent 1 year and 2 months in immigrant detention. His younger sister, who is a citizen, became depressed, worrying whether he would be sent to Mexico and she would never see him again. She started failing in school. I volunteered to pick up Arturo when he made bond with the help of Participatory Defense and other advocates in the community. His parents couldn't do it. They were afraid if they went to Adelanto, they wouldn't be coming back. They don't have a path to citizenship either. There he was, this strapping young man with a big smile on his face, hoping to start up his life again, though with a constant threat of deportation in the background. And in other circumstances, it could have been my son. Just happenstance of birth that it was him instead. I asked Arturo about immigrant detention in Adelanto versus jail in Orange County. He said, Adelanto is worlds better. The guards treat them like people, don't verbally abuse them or try to incite them to fight each other. He got fresh air and exercise. The food was edible at Adelanto, and there was enough of it. The scary part is several lawsuits have been filed and sometimes won against Adelanto for endangering the lives of its detainees. And OC jails make Adelanto look good. Edible food, probably something we take for granted. What do you do if you're in jail and you get served moldy bread or reeking lunch meat or spoiled milk? Well, you could make yourself sick. You could miss a meal. If your relatives send you tons of money, you can buy $10 worth of junk food from the commissary and try to make a meal out of it. You know those little peanut butters like you get at the hotel breakfast bars that got about a tablespoon in them? They cost $1 at the commissary. Rotten food was legendary at OC jails before the pandemic. Starting in March of 2020, people got dry food for breakfast every day, and for lunch and dinner, 2 identical meals, 2 lunch meat sandwiches, maybe with a piece of fruit and a cookie, for 2 straight years. The stated reason was COVID prevented kitchen staff from working, and kitchen staff were incarcerated people. However, there were no COVID precautions anywhere else in the jails, lawsuits on that. Every other county in California managed to get their jail residents hot meals. Finally, a report of this deplorable situation was released December 15th by a coalition of 15 justice organizations in Orange County, including CLUE, but the heavy lifting was done by a wonderful group of people called Stop the Music. Stop the Music, incidentally, is a coalition opposing the totally unnecessary expansion of the James A. Music Jail in Irvine at a cost of $260 million. After many letters to the editor, rallies, press conferences, and calls to county supervisors and the like, hot dinners were finally restored at the end of April. In Orange County, incarcerated people are humiliated every step of the way. People are released from Orange County jails at any time of day or night, but usually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. If, as frequently happens, their clothes weren't saved, they can be released barefoot and in paper clothes in winter. They may get their cell phone back, dead battery and all, but they're not given a penny. They're told they can walk to wherever they need to go. My friend Michelle has a special ministry of parking in front of Theo Lacey and watching the door in the middle of the night to try to catch these lost souls. Immigrants like Arturo are not released at night. They are released at the convenience of ICE, so they can be taken directly into immigrant detention as soon as they are freed by law enforcement. Transfers from law enforcement to ICE became illegal in California a couple of years ago. But Sheriff Barnes finds that carefully coordinating releases to coincide with the rolling up of an ICE van to the jail door meets the letter of the law in his eyes. Orange County has the highest law enforcement to ICE transfer numbers in the state and has for several years now. Kelvin Roman, and that is his real name, you can read about him in the news, was stopped for having tinted windows and jailed for 3 days. It took that long not to realize that there were no charges to be filed, but to drum up a reluctant ICE van to cart him off to Adelanto, where he then spent 9 months and missed the birth of his 3rd child. Soon I'll be attending the trial of Antonio. Well, I hope it's soon. I first accompanied his mom to a court hearing of his in 2019. We sat all morning listening to the judge say to people behind a screen, "Do you waive your right to a speedy trial? Public attorneys are overbooked and behind schedule, much worse now because of COVID. And we listened to dozens of people, including finally Antonio, saying, yes, I waive my right to a speedy trial. To be fair, Antonio's charge is serious, and the investigator for his court-appointed defender was still looking for evidence to try to support his case. Well, that investigator has since died of COVID, I'm afraid, and another investigator was never assigned. Antonio's lawyer says, don't count on the trial starting on the date, because that lawyer has 114 cases, and he'll probably be in a different courtroom that day. For over 4 years now, Antonio, who was starting college, has been just existing, enduring humiliation, eating cold and rotten food, depressed, and unable to better himself in any way, because county jails are supposed to be temporary. So they're not set up for any kind of rehabilitation or study. Luckily, Antonio is young and in good health. Other people didn't fare as well through COVID and malnutrition. Because of participatory defense, though, his mom has somebody to explain the legal system to her. She doesn't speak English well. And he has a pen pal, me. And we are gathering letters when, as we suspect he'll be convicted, to implore the judge to know that he's a real person who made one mistake, and can they please give him a light sentence? So how can you help? What will really make a difference is when the OC criminal legal system, led by our elected sheriff and district attorney, see incarcerated people as human beings who have value. I've watched them in videos and on person. They think of the people they deal with as human garbage. So this will require our votes and our support for candidates who see incarcerated persons as persons instead of human garbage. In the meantime, please help me shine a light on these abuses. Get a copy of this sermon from Noreen. I have a couple in my bag. I can give you paper. I can give her the email, and those documents have clickable links to the news articles and stuff. If you like to check footnotes, the Voice of Orange County is always a good news source to keep track of. Just tell your friends. Tell your friends that Orange County jails are a horror show, and somebody needs to do something about it by electing somebody who cares about detainees. You could also donate to the Orange County Justice Fund, ocjusticefund.org. That fund helped pay the bond for both Kelvin and Arturo to get out of Adelanto and back to their families. When I was in jail, you visited me. This is sacred work we're doing, witnessing people struggle and persevere in unjust circumstances, reminding them that somebody cares. Unjust circumstances that my government created. That's humbled me. But working with the dedicated justice seekers of Participatory Defense, the OC Justice Fund, CLUE, and many others has inspired me. Among my partners are talented and dedicated Latinx people. Some of those people went to big name colleges, and some of them did their learning behind bars. But now they give huge amounts of time and money and care to letting people behind bars know they matter. They're not forgotten. Somebody on the outside is fighting for their rights. This is sacred work indeed. Amen.
thank you, Reverend Terry. You've given us a lot to think about. Your experiences are very rich in providing what we need to inform ourselves. Thank you. And in case it went too fast for you, the link to OC Justice, the place where you can donate, is in the email that was sent today to announce this service this morning. Thank you very much. Our closing hymn today is number 1021, Lean on Me. We all know this song, so let's sing heartily and enjoy ourselves.
In our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Oh, thank you, Carol. As our service comes to an end, we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we're together again. So please stand as we joyously sing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." We sing it to each other.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with earth as our mother. We are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with thee. Have a lovely day, everybody.